This is PWF Empire Live.
It's the best thing going today.
The best insight and analysis on the hottest topics in the world of wrestling happens here. From storylines and news to rumors and reviews, we've got the action covered from bell to bell. Presented by PWFEmpire.com with your hosts,
Steven,
Evan Medina, and J-Dub.
do I have everybody's attention now?
The match starts now.
PWF Empire is live. Thank you all for tuning in. Jay here on this Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I'm joined on the hosting panel tonight by my esteemed colleagues, Steven and Evan. How are you guys feeling tonight? I know we got a lot of great things to talk about on the show. I'm excited. Are you?
Yeah, definitely. I see you have a new shirt.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm representing for Lucha Underground. And I have to say, guys, I really did cash out on Lucha Underground because they released 3 shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, and I bought all 3 of them. So, yeah. And I realized you brought that up not to give me props on the Lucha Underground shirt, but to talk trash about the fact that I didn't wear the New Day shirt. I know. I caught that.
That's not true, but if you want to take it that way.
Okay. Maybe I didn't
Well, I'm
give you
going to
enough
trash
credit.
talk you. How
Where's
dare
your
you
shirt?
not wear? I don't know. It's not. Yeah, you're right. Damn. Now that I got the shirt, I had. See now I can't even give you crap for it anymore.
Nope. Like you have to be in the shirt too. We have to be united as a team here. One team, one fight.
Yeah, we have to make sure that happens. Yeah, we gotta be united.
Okay, Steven, yeah, you have to get a New Day shirt now, so we can like all wear the New Day shirt, on the show.
Do I have to? If I was gonna get a shirt, I've always wanted the Kevin Owens one. I don't know, but the New Day.
I mean, I have a few Kevin Owens shirts. You have a Kevin Owens shirt, Evan?
I currently don't, but I would definitely get one. I mean, I'm not really that into getting, WWE merch, especially with the way their product has been the last year. But Kevin Owens is definitely a guy that I would acquire a shirt from. And New Day is just the top of the crop right now, so there's no way I wasn't getting a New Day shirt. But yeah, Kevin Owens is up there, so yeah, I would unite with you guys on a Kevin Owens shirt.
Well, based on some of the things that we're going to be talking about on tonight's show, WWE may be on the road to recovery. I know you guys and the viewers, they love to make fun of me anytime that I talk about change and stuff like that because, maybe I jumped the gun very early, but there are a lot of positive signs coming off of the TV, what we see in the storylines and behind the scenes in WWE. We're going to be talking about all of that, and that includes WWE and highway robbery. Man, New Japan Pro Wrestling, they have been raided by the feds. And the feds, WWE in this case, Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Karl Anderson, and also Doc Gallows. We'll be talking about that a little later on in the show, but we're going to kick things off tonight discussing the big news that we got on Monday Night Raw. It is official. The Royal Rumble match will now be for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It usually is for the main event spot, or at the very least a World Championship match at WrestleMania, but this time around it is actually going to be for the World Championship, and that decision was handed down by Vincent Kennedy McMahon in a way to punish Roman Reigns. He had a lot of interaction with the McMahon family on Monday Night Raw, some physical interaction with Vince, and Stephanie got a little piece too. So I want to know from you guys, first and foremost, this news that the Royal Rumble is now going to be the World Heavyweight Championship match. How did you react to this news?
At first, I didn't really care for it. I know a lot of people were actually calling for this and predicting this, so I'm sure they're happy. I know one of the guys on Twitter that you retweeted seemed to have called it. And
it's so funny because I joked about it initially because when he sent me the tweet and he was like, what did he say? Am I the only one that wants to see the WWE Championship on the line in the Royal Rumble? And I was like, yeah, you probably are. But when I actually thought about it, I was like, that's a possibility, and now it is a reality.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to this. The first side is that it doesn't really change things too much, but it changes them from, I think, 2 possible winners to 3 possible winners. So I think that's an upgrade in terms of unpredictability. And by that I mean, if Reigns was not in the match, I could have only seen Triple H or Brock Lesnar winning. Now I could see Triple H, Brock Lesnar, or Reigns winning. So that's 2 to 3. So that helps the match's unpredictability slightly better, considering that Rumble matches usually only have 1 or 2 obvious winners anyway. So this time it's 3. Although you have to also take in consideration now guys like Wyatt or Owens or Ambrose probably definitely won't win. Whereas before, I didn't think they would win, but there's always that slight possibility. Same with someone like Daniel Bryan, maybe a surprise. Not going to happen, but there's always a slight possibility. But now that Reigns is defending the title in the match, I think either he is going to win it or one of the 2 people who are probably going to be his opponents for WrestleMania will win it. So there's 2 sides to that whole coin.
Yep, I really am happy about this, to be completely honest. I also had the same kind of like mixed feeling at first, but overall I'm a lot more happy about it than not. And the main reason why is because it shakes things up. And you know, the McMahon family has been trying to punish Roman Reigns for the last number of weeks, and I don't really feel like they've done anything to punish the guy. You know, Vince McMahon gets himself arrested, but Reigns just kind of stood there and was like, all right, bye. Like, I mean, it wasn't really anything that affected Roman Reigns. And then even this week on Raw, you have Reigns win. He beats Sheamus, and they try to bring in the Scott Armstrong, and his count was slower than Vince's. And so, I mean, they didn't really do much.
Like, serious, and that's his legit count. Like, shit, they should have Scott Armstrong out there from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, he must have a...
Why did Reigns punch Armstrong? Because to my eyes, he didn't do anything. He counted, and then there was a kick out.
See, Roman Reigns knew that fuckery was abound. Like, he knew something was going down because Scott Armstrong is the face of crookedness in WWE.
That's
like
true.
Anytime you need a crooked referee, bring Scott Armstrong out. Like, does he even legit referee anymore? Or
I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I haven't seen him.
The only time we see him is when they cart him out for some fuckery. So Roman Reigns knew it was on the way. He was like, let me go ahead and put a stop to this before it even begins.
Yep. And then after that, Vince was kind of like already aware, because, you know, he was out for a while, but he was already back up when Sheamus was calling for Scott Armstrong. That's why I didn't think it made any sense. And then you follow that up with a third referee coming in. Then Vince knocks that referee out like 5 seconds later. So he couldn't count to 3, but he's able to knock someone out. Like, I mean, go figure. But anyway,
what he had to do was unwrap his senzu bean in that time. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's all Dragon Ball Z, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a magical recovery there.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's Dragon Ball Z, or because wrestling is the answer to Dragon Ball Z. You ask Dragon Ball Z? Yeah, because wrestling. Okay, anyway, I as much as I had disdain for the way the main event was booked, I was left with a good taste in my mouth with that finish, like for having the Royal Rumble be with the championship on the line, because I feel like finally Roman Reigns is actually being punished. He's actually having to go through the ringer. He actually has to go through something difficult. 29 other people are going to be in the ring. Now, the way that they really make him be punished is having him enter first or second. He has to enter early in the match. Like, they can't have him come in number 25 and be like, oh, Reigns is definitely going to get beat. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So if they do that, I'm going to retract this statement and say that they didn't really punish him, because if he comes in late, it makes no freaking sense. So he should have to come in early, especially because he's the champion. Like, you would figure someone who's defending the title, it's the first time that's ever happened in the Royal Rumble. There's been one other title Royal Rumble, and that was 92 with Ric Flair, but it was winning a vacant championship rather than actually defending the title, which I definitely think it's new and different, and it makes me more excited for the Rumble than I would have been had this not been the situation. So I am looking more forward to the match itself because of the fact that the title's on the line. It makes the stakes even bigger. because now you'll be the champion more than likely going into WrestleMania, rather than fighting just to get there.
Yeah, this makes a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. That's why it was so funny, because I wrote it off as a joke initially, and I want to find the person who tweeted me this so I can actually give them a shout out for it. Because, yeah, like I said, I wrote it off initially, but it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. The fact that Vince McMahon, with all of the power and the influence that he has, he could just simply, bam, snap of his fingers, thy will be done. You're not going to be in a regular old one-on-one match. I want to stack the deck against you, and I want to put you into a situation where you're defending your championship against 29 other men. And also what plays into that is the fact that, what if Roman Reigns is to get into the ring and, you know, if he doesn't enter at number 1, he's to get into the ring where there are people already there. Boom. Laser focus right on him. And it's not a situation where Vince McMahon is attempting to turn people heel or anything like that, turning them against Roman Reigns. It's not about them being bad guys. It's about them going out there and they have an objective. I want to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And if I chuck your ass over these ropes, then my chance has increased that much more. And hell, the chance of a new WWE World Heavyweight Champion is at 100% at that point. So I thought that was really good stuff from them announcing that the Royal Rumble was going to be the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. I want to go back to that main event, though. I actually really liked that main event. I did, because we talked about it on the show many times before. The fact that I wasn't interested in the heavyweight championship picture, and I'm interested in it now because I feel like WWE is creating, they're creating a storyline. They're creating an atmosphere around the championship that gets me excited. And it's so weird because I sat there watching the show and I did not give one single fuck about Sheamus. And I was okay with that because as far as I was concerned, he was just being taken along for the ride. But I will give him props, though, on one of those bro kicks. Like the one that like came completely out of nowhere when Reigns was mixing it up with Vince. That was a very nice bro kick, Sheamus. So kudos to you. But you guys have anything more to say on this subject of the Royal Rumble being the World Championship match?
Not really, to be honest with you. I didn't like the main event much. I thought it was kind of a clusterfuck. And
it was an entertaining one for me. I thought it was too, but I thought it was a fun one.
It wasn't bad. Actually, this whole storyline with Vince and Reigns kind of feels strange to me. Like, I think I touched on it a few weeks ago. It just feels very contrived. And I think I might be in the minority there, but it just feels like I don't buy it for some reason. I don't believe it. I don't believe that Vince actually doesn't like Reigns. I just don't.
The only week that
do you need to, though? Do you need to believe that for it to be effective?
Well, for me, I'm not saying for everyone, but for me, yeah.
Like, I understand where you're coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only times I ever felt like there was any legit disliking from Vince to Reigns was when he was going to fire him had he not won that title match, and then now that he's putting him in the Royal Rumble and making him defend the title against, you know, all 29 other guys or whatever. But those are the only two times, moments in time that I felt like Vince actually didn't like Roman Reigns, or it was not that he didn't like him, but that he was actually putting him behind the 8 ball, so to speak. You know what I mean? The other moments I didn't really feel like it was actual punishment. Like I said, him getting arrested had nothing. It didn't do anything to Roman Reigns, you know. And this week on Raw, I didn't think that did anything to Roman either. Like, he didn't do much during the match to actually try to prevent Reigns from winning, other than pretending to be, like, you know, hurt or whatever. And like, he didn't say like, "Oh, Sheamus, you can do whatever you want." He actually told Sheamus to follow the rules, which to me make much less sense. Why wouldn't he have the entire you know, whatever the hell stable that is? I don't even know the name of the stable anymore. League of Nations.
Mid-card Mafia.
Yeah, League of BS. Complete crap. Terrible. I can't even remember. Like, I legit blanked on the name because they suck so bad. Anyway, why wouldn't they have been out there, at least in some way, shape, or form? Why wouldn't he have allowed any weapons to be used or whatever? Like, that would have made so much more sense, because then, like, you know, Sheamus could have done whatever he wanted to try to beat Reigns. It would have actually given him some sort of advantage, but instead Vince was actually telling him to follow the rules. So again, like, now that he's putting him in the Rumble, I actually feel like Vince truly wants Reigns to lose the title. But on this week's Raw, I almost felt like he wanted Reigns to keep it.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I'm like, why doesn't Vince just do a really fast count when Sheamus has the pin? I mean, there's so many things, but it's not just that I don't believe that Vince wants him to lose the title. I just can't buy the premise that Vince really cares about this whole thing so much. Like, I really bought it with Triple H. Like, I buy that Triple H really hates this guy, and I buy that Reigns hates Triple H. But when it comes to Vince versus Reigns, I don't see it, mostly because I don't see the relationship between Vince and Triple H to be that powerful. Like, I don't feel like Vince would really give a shit that Reigns kicked Triple H's ass. Do you know?
See, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like they called in Vince to be... Maybe this is the issue here, the fact that Vince McMahon is involved, because I'm looking at it and I'm putting the pieces together now, because Vince has basically become the proxy for Triple H, and it's like it's a Vince McMahon versus Roman Reigns thing, and I think that's the reason why they went with the whole arrest last week. Now, if you want to talk about contrived, that was contrived as hell, because that was basically them saying, okay, what can we do to make this more about Vince and Roman Reigns? Oh, let's have Roman Reigns go out there and embarrass Vince, but it didn't actually work that way. It didn't come off that way. So maybe Vince's involvement in this for WWE to want to make this feel like a bigger storyline, they added Vince in, and that's where the part of it feeling contrived maybe comes in. But what they did this week on the show, I actually really appreciated it, and I like the fact that I felt the tension between Roman Reigns and Stephanie in the first segment of the night. I thought both of them were really great in that segment. Stephanie talking about how they didn't want to, because they could easily strip him of the championship and fire him, but they wanted to beat him down, break his spirit, break his body, break him down physically. I really liked all of that stuff. And the line that Roman Reigns had where he said, you know what, if your daddy interferes, you won't be picking him up from jail, you'll be picking him up from the hospital. All of that stuff was good. So I feel like it's in a good place right now. Maybe we kind of need it. I don't even necessarily think we needed the arrest thing to happen, but like for what we got this week, I thought it was good.
Yeah, that opening segment I did like. I was all over that, but then the main event just to me was so much of a clusterfuck. Like, I'll admit I was laughing, but is that good or bad? I mean, I don't know. It was more just a fucking joke to me than it was anything else. I was just kind of laughing at Vince being down, and then Sheamus calling in Scott Armstrong, it not working out, and then Reigns Superman punching everything in sight, and it was just kind of, I don't know. To me it just felt kind of like a mess, and I didn't feel like I really got a whole lot out of it. I don't know. Like I feel like Triple H coming in and you know, taking out Reigns, that would have been the best possibility.
I was really expecting Triple H, but he never
That's
came.
what I thought was going to happen too.
Yeah.
Instead of the Royal Rumble announcement, I thought it was going to be Reigns versus Triple H.
Well, yeah. Well, that too, but I was expecting Triple H to come in during this match. I thought he would. I thought when Vince, after he Superman punched Vince, and they were waiting for a new referee, Triple H would come and just beat the shit out of him, and spark that back up. But it never happened.
The moment I really thought it was going to happen is when Reigns threw Vince into Stephanie. I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
That right there sealed the deal. If we didn't know it before, we're damn sure going to get Roman Reigns versus Triple H at some point. But it's all about finding out when that point is going to be. But that I guess that's something that we can discuss at another time. You know, maybe they'll have some mix-ups at the Royal Rumble. Maybe it'll be at Fastlane. Maybe even WrestleMania. Who knows? A lot of unanswered questions right now. And over these next few weeks leading into the Royal Rumble, we will be attempting to answer those questions. Speaking of questions, there's a big one going around right now. What the hell is going on with AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Karl Anderson, and also Doc Gallows? Because word has come down that they apparently gave their notice to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and immediately after that announcement, it was Dave Meltzer. He said that, yeah, they're just as good as signed right now to WWE. And what I found so interesting about this, just a few minutes before the show went live, I read on WWE.com. On WWE's official website, they actually have an article up talking about the speculation that's going on the internet right now. So it's so funny that they did the article and Triple H, he said no comment in the article, and they didn't actually say they were signed, but it's like, okay, if you ran the damn rumor, out of all of these rumors that are going on about WWE out there, the fact that you ran that rumor on your site, it's as good as a done deal. So I want to ask you all right now, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, two of the best wrestlers on the planet. They just had a great match at Wrestle Kingdom 10 just a few days ago. And you have the tag team from the Bullet Club there. Do you buy or sell this news that they could possibly be signing with WWE?
Do I have to have either of those? Because I don't know these guys. I never.
Well, we were just talking about it before the show. You know.
No, I know, but I don't know them on an intimate level. Like, I know who they are. Well, at least I know.
I mean, I don't either.
You know, biscuits and gravy.
I know biscuits and gravy. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's AJ Styles. I can comment on him because I've seen some of his stuff. I feel like he'd be better off in NXT. From what I've heard, he's not going to NXT, which is bizarre to me. Because if they signed Samoa Joe, he has to go through NXT, which I thought it would have been in the opposite case. Like, if they signed Samoa Joe, he would have been on the main roster right away. But AJ Styles doesn't seem to have to go through that, which is odd. But I feel like they're kind of bringing in too many good wrestlers. Does anyone feel that way? Like, they have Hideo Itami right now. They have
You're going to have to explain this one to me.
Well, I just feel like it's more than they can do anything with, because they have this well, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's more than they're willing to do anything with. Mm-hmm. Like, you already have people filling these niches. Like, let's be honest here. This new Japanese guy that they just signed, I don't know who the hell he is. It's going to make me sound ignorant, but I don't. But let's be honest here. Is he going to be booked any different from Hideo Itami? Like, do you think Vince and his team have the creative finesse to distinguish these two personalities? Like, Hideo already fills whatever role this other Japanese guy would have filled, you know? I'm not saying that's how it should be, but, like, to be honest, that's what it is. That's why Sin Cara and Kalisto are basically the same guy. Because they're going to be in a tag team. That's what it will be.
I completely understand what you're saying, but it's like tearing this little pro wrestling heart of mine apart. It's breaking it into pieces, because I do understand the system that has been established in WWE, and them possibly having friction with that system is the only reason in the world that I could possibly sell this, if I was to sell it. Like, that would be the only reason, because, like, you don't know who Shinsuke Nakamura is. I'll tell you. That dude is the most charismatic wrestler on the fucking planet. Like, the way that he competes, just his flow, like, he has swag. You know, he and it's one thing to have charisma when you talk, and I think that that's great, but to have charisma in the way that you move and just the way that you flow, he's the type of guy that you can laugh at him and he can make jokes and he can be funny and entertaining in his matches, but the very next second he's knocking somebody's head off with a knee. So I look at him.
He sounds cool. I just don't believe he's going to be anything on the main roster, and this is why I'm worried, because they have all these great wrestlers, and I'm just like, well, you know, where are they all going to go? Because
like,
they have a hard enough time booking the dudes they already have. They have no spots for these guys.
That's why it's so crazy when I look at this situation, because I'm wondering, and like, do you realize how fucked up of a situation it is? I hear this story and I'm like, main roster? No. Please, no, God,
Put them in developmental, damn it. Yeah.
Yes, put them in the developmental indie there, so we can actually see, you know, little glimpses of their talent, and we can recapture the magic that they had in New Japan. But like AJ, speaking for him, I wasn't much of a fan of his when he was in TNA, but I feel like where he is now, like talking about competing with charisma, moving with charisma, like, I've never been impressed with him on the mic, but something happened to that guy. A weight was lifted off his damn shoulders after he left TNA, and I can truly say that he is phenomenal now when I watch him.
to me, with him, it's called just proving himself in other areas, because TNA was his life, his heart, and his soul, and they screwed him the fuck over, and he was the most valuable asset, and maybe forever will be the most valuable asset that company has ever had, ever. And we treated him like shit. And so I think it was like this whole thing has been a revenge tour for him, I feel like. And maybe not. I mean, I know he's not a vengeful person, I don't think. But I think that it's not a revenge tour as much as it is necessarily hey, I'm still the fucking best, even if I'm not in your company. And I think he is the best in the world, and I've thought that for a long time.
Isn't there like a saying, like, success is the sweetest revenge? If there's
exactly.
not...
Exactly.
Okay, I thought I made something up right there. Damn.
Yeah, no, I have heard that before, and it's true. I think AJ Styles is a living proof of that, and where he's just says, "Well, I'm just gonna do me, and I'm just gonna show you that I'm still better than everybody you got." And I truly think he is the best. And personally, I'm on the other end. When he was in TNA, he was always my favorite. When he was in TNA, I was impressed with everything he did, whether it was in the ring, on the mic, everything. I am a huge AJ Styles fan.
Even on commentary, huh?
Well, okay. I don't think anything commentary-wise TNA was ever impressive. But
Claire Lynch, what about that?
Oh yeah, that was a hell of a storyline.
It was a hot and passionate night.
There was. You know what's funny about that storyline is that everyone who's involved in it outside of Claire Lynch was so talented. Like, you have Kazarian and Daniels and Styles, and these guys are three of the best in the world, and yet they're involved in this god-awful storyline that should never be talked about again. But anyway, I think that's fair to say it's the Katie Vick level of stupidity for TNA. But anyway, AJ Styles is like one of my all-time favorites. So for him to be signed to WWE is beyond exciting. Not because of what they may or may not do with him, as much as it is because he deserves the national recognition. Because there's so many people who may not know AJ Styles only because they only watch WWE, and to me, he deserves the distinction of being able to say, hey, I wrestled for WWE, because he's too damn good not to. And that's kind of how I felt about Sting in another way. Obviously, Sting was an established legend in another company that was an actual threat to WWE, whereas AJ Styles has been in everywhere you can imagine except for WWE, and in an era where there was no major competition, as much as some may like to think there was. Anyway, AJ Styles the sky is the limit. The guy is almost 40, and I don't care. He's probably in good enough shape that he can go for another 7-8 years at the level he's at right now.
This is arguably the best run of his career.
Exactly. He's better now than he was 5 years ago, and he was the best in the world 5 years ago. So, I mean, I honestly think AJ Styles is the top wrestler, and for WWE to get him, that's like your favorite team signing like the best player in the league, and you go from being a team that's not even in the playoffs to being the number one seed. You know, like I think this signing is huge. And again, that's not even me mentioning Shinsuke, who is an amazing wrestler too. And I agree with everything you said, Jay, about him. He is a blast to watch. And then not only that, but having Gallows back is very interesting for WWE. They really missed the mark with him when he was Luke Gallows as part of the Straight Edge Society. I think even on his own, he has a lot of potential, can do a lot of things. Even he's part of a team. He's good as part of a team. So I'm all bought on all of this. Buy for the signings. What they'll do with them is a whole nother story. We don't know that yet. I would like to think that they'll do the right thing with them, but I can never have full faith in WWE for WWE to do the right thing with anybody, to be honest.
As far as Luke Gallows is concerned, I don't know, maybe it was just an off match that I watched, but I saw one of his matches in New Japan, and that was enough for me to not want to see anymore. So, I don't know. Like, I maybe I'll give him another chance and see what he's all about. But a lot of the things that you're saying, they're very interesting right now, and I don't know if it's a situation where it's like this is in a perfect world. Like, of course, you have your reservations about how WWE is going to use AJ Styles, but the question that I have is, when you say this is like your favorite team signing your favorite player or best player or whatever, and shooting up the rankings, how do they use AJ to do that? Because I look at the situation and I say AJ is amazingly talented in the ring, but how do we get AJ to move the needle in WWE? Because there are a lot of folks on the roster right now that are phenomenal in their own right. And you know, because like we've actually had this talk on the show before about the in-ring part of WWE and them needing to focus on, you know, more storytelling elements and character development and things like that. So I'm just wondering, with as good as AJ is, what else does he bring to the table for him to, you know, be able to move that needle for WWE?
That's a good question. That's sort of my reluctance, because AJ Styles, he's one of those guys. Like, I don't know this for sure because I never really watched TNA all that much, but my sense is that AJ Styles is one of those great wrestler type characters, like Daniel Bryan, like Cesaro, like Dolph Ziggler. He's just a really good wrestler, and that's sort of what he brings to the table. Am I off by that? And I'm not saying that's not a lot, but I'm saying usually in the company, Vince doesn't like populating his main event scene with people who are just great wrestlers. Like, usually there's something else about them that will cause him to push a guy. Yeah. And right now it's like, well, you already have a lot of those, so I'm not sure what niche he's gonna fill.
Well, I agree with what you're saying for a lot of the early part of his career, but I'd say the last 3-4 years he has been a lot more. I think he has proven that character side of him is strong. Toward the end of his TNA run, he became a darker, like, lone wolf type of character, and it was really good stuff. Again, we didn't get to see it incredibly a lot because it was the last like 6-8 months of his entire run. That was really all it was. But he was a whole different character than what we had been used to. He had longer hair, and he still, I'm pretty sure he still has that look to this day. And he's just been different than he was prior. But, you know, I honestly always saw something in him, even on the microphone, because he's like a hardy type of family man. Like, to me, he kind of fits that into that demographic of like he could be looked at as an everyman, but he also could be a darker type of character that he was toward the end of his TNA run, and now, even, you know, since he's been away from TNA, he's just been on fire. And it's been not even just from the wrestling. I think it's really been from some of his actions too. Like, he just has a no fucks given type of attitude. And I mean, we already do have other guys like that in the company, but the thing is, he brings something special to the table in terms of being able to out-wrestle almost anybody, but yet also can still hold his own in every area. So I think that they could use him in a lot of different ways that could move the needle, so to speak. I think it's easier said than done. I really think that they're going to have to hone in on a particular look for this guy, because I've always tried to picture him in WWE, but I've never been able to really do it. Like, it's still hard for me to picture it, even knowing that he's very... Like, I mean, it looks as if he's about to be there. I don't know when he will debut. But, you know, I mean, still thinking about it, it's weird to think of, like, Michael Cole saying AJ Styles. I can't imagine them saying that name. But, I mean, maybe they'll change his name. I hope they don't do too much of that with AJ Styles. He's too well established to change his name. So I hope they wouldn't do that. But if, in the case that they did, you know, either way, just him being there is basically the point of what makes me just think it's weird. But I do fear him being there for another reason, and that's because they take guys who have so much talent, and he'll be a guy that will look at what AJ Styles can do, this, and this, but then they won't actually allow him to show what he can really do.
He's fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. That type of that's Neville in a nutshell. It's Neville. That is literally what Neville is right now. And I honestly think Neville can bring a lot more to the table. And I think we saw that in NXT when, you know, you saw him actually talk more than 0 times. And
I think Kevin Owens feud is kind of helping him out. Like, I really do. I feel like I'm seeing an actual character here with Neville, not just a fun to watch type guy. You know, when he's going after Owens. When the match first starts on Raw, I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm. He went out there with something to prove.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I am kind of mad, though, that they rolled over my Neville Miz storyline, because I wanted to see that.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
I was liking that storyline.
No, dude, I was too, to be honest, but, like, this is better, so whatever.
Yeah, I want, but the thing is, like, Neville almost feels like the third wheel of the storyline, because like the focus is still Ambrose and Owens, but yet Neville is involved. Like but I like the idea of Neville and Owens being in their own feud, but yet I want to see Owens and Ambrose still play out right now. But regardless, just to like close off the AJ Styles point, what I really am hoping is that that's not what we see. It's just this, okay, well, AJ, you can wrestle, so let's just you just give us all those wonderful fancy moves that the fans will like. I want to see that guy actually get microphone time, because like he's better than Daniel Bryan on the microphone, hands down. Daniel Bryan to me is very mediocre on the mic, and that's not a criticism as much as it is just he's not the best talker. It doesn't matter. Daniel Bryan's still one of the best. He's still a main event draw as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the size or any of the rest of the shit. Daniel Bryan is still great. He's still like solid enough. He gets by on the microphone. I'm just saying he's not as dynamic as AJ Styles can be. When AJ Styles gets passionate in a promo, he can be fucking awesome, absolutely awesome. So then another guy, being Shinsuke Nakamura, I really love it for the international scene. Like, I mean, I know we got Hideo Itami too, so I think Steven made a good point with saying that, they kind of fit that same bill. But WWE, that's them, not reality. Like, reality says that you could have 8 or 9 Asian wrestlers and Japanese wrestlers, and it wouldn't matter. Like, those guys could all have their own type of gimmick. But WWE is so race oriented with their characters, and it's true, let's be honest, that every Japanese wrestler is always has to love their culture, and it always has to be about the fact that they're Japanese. Why? Like, why can't it be more than that? Why does it always have to be about where they came from when they're not from the United States or Canada? And it's true. Like, unless they're North American, every fucking other gimmick is about where they're from. If you're Spanish, you're either playing a street thug or you're wearing a mask, and if you're from Japan, you're always about your culture, and they did that with Yoshitatsu, a guy who had so much talent and I think a lot of potential, and they completely ruined that, and so it's like, to me, I want to see Shinsuke Nakamura, with all the talent that guy has, be able to be a gimmick that isn't just about the fact that he's from Japan. Can we get past that and make this guy a character? That's what I hope.
All right, I want to go back to we talked about it a little bit, this feud going on between Neville, Kevin Owens, and Dean Ambrose. I don't know if it was just me, but I noticed something on Monday Night Raw. And this is something that we've actually been talking about it for a while. This whole lunatic fringe that comes along with Dean Ambrose's tag that has been fixed on him and pushed by WWE. If I didn't know it was bullshit before, I know it's bullshit now. And I like this feud. I want to say that. We like Dean Ambrose, but didn't he put Kevin Owens through the announcer's table, or the elbow through the announcer's table, right? Him. So we had the announcers there talking about how crazy Ambrose is and things like that, and they love to push this whole lunatic fringe thing. Didn't we see a similar thing from Kevin Owens last week? Like, we saw him put Dean Ambrose through the announcer's table. So this isn't necessarily me talking about the feud and saying that this is a negative as far as the feud is concerned. It's just that I think that WWE needs to do a lot more to differentiate Dean Ambrose from everybody else on the roster. Because if you stand there and you want me to believe that this guy is a lunatic fringe, hell, as far as I'm concerned, the craziest person on the roster right now is Roman Reigns. That's the fucking lunatic fringe. Like, that guy went postal on Triple H at TLC. He, roughed up the owner of the company. Like, that's a lunatic fringe to me. Like, something needs to happen with Dean Ambrose to push the message home further that if this guy is actually the lunatic fringe, there needs to be something that differentiates him from everybody else on the roster, or else, shit, everybody's crazy. This isn't just the Ambrose asylum. This is WWE is an asylum. This is an institution in and of itself. Yeah, you guys have any thoughts on this feud with Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose?
Yeah, it is a great feud as far as it goes. I really wish they would drop this lunatic crap. It's not a good gimmick. It's not even a gimmick, as we talked about. It's just a title that they force on this guy. You know, he would be a lot more tolerable if they didn't force this idea that he is something that he is not onto us. He's just a little
yeah, because it's
quirky.
like they
That's all
call
he
him
is.
that.
He's not
They
crazy.
call him that, and we have to judge him by that standard, and he just
Exactly.
doesn't fit the bill.
Yeah. He's not crazy. He's just like kind of quirky. He makes funny faces. He does little jigs. Like that's all. That's what he does. That's not his gimmick. That's just like a few personality traits that he happens to have. So yeah, I wish they would stop this because it doesn't do him any favors. They just make him look like a clown when they hype him up as a lunatic, and he doesn't do anything like that. Now, I think he would be a genuine lunatic if he was a heel, but he's not a heel. Right now he's a babyface. I wish they would push this guy more like a Han Solo type character, because his face reminds me of Harrison Ford. And I feel like he just has this like stoic, kind of badass looking demeanor to him.
Like in that Terminator commercial.
Oh yeah, that's what.
That
yeah.
was so sick. He was awesome. He's like burning a cigar. I'm like, man, this is the Dean Ambrose that I have wanted to see from day one.
Yeah, I see that in him, and it drives me nuts because like this guy I know could be like the top whatever they want him to be if they really wanted to go. But they just confine him to this strange, not even gimmick, just label of being a crazy lunatic, and he does like 3 moves every match, and it's not a good place for him right now. He needs to revamp his moveset in the ring. He needs to get a new style because I don't think it's working. And I think his gimmick, or lack of a gimmick, is just annoying at this point. It's not fun. It's just like he's another one of those guys fun to watch. They call him a lunatic, but it's the same general sentiment. It's like, oh, what is he gonna do next? He's gonna go crazy. Okay, like it's just. All he is a guy for JBL to exclaim over, you know, it's like El Torito or something.
The only
And
like
the Tumblr
lunacy
crowd to write fanfics about and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. But the only lunacy, that I saw out of Ambrose on Raw was after he, had put Owens through the table already, and he, gave that like crazy look. I was like, man, that looks like a lunatic.
I like when
okay,
he held
that was
Owens'
good.
head. I thought that was a good touch.
That was good, but like that's the only thing that tells me he's a lunatic. Like nothing that he said on commentary or anything like that even hinted at him being a lunatic. He sounded completely normal, to be honest. He sounded like he was actually enjoying the match. He sounded more like a fan that was enjoying the match, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But
when he
that's
talked
not
about
a
a
lunatic.
few weeks ago, breakfast for dinner and replacing Michael Cole with the fish tank, that's the sanest shit I've ever heard.
That's like a Roman Reigns John Cena promo, you know? Like that's something I would expect Reigns to say when Vince is writing his material, or like Cena to say when I'm sure he writes his own material. So.
But what else do we have to talk about from Monday Night Raw? There was something that I happen to find interesting. The situation that's going on with the Divas right now. We had the official heel turn from Charlotte. It has been building up for a little bit of time now, and she turned heel on Becky Lynch after Becky won her match versus Charlotte under a little bit of suspicious circumstances. She grabbed the tights of Charlotte, ensuring her victory, and also getting her a shot at the not yet Divas Championship on this next episode of SmackDown. And yeah, do you all buy or sell this heel turn from Charlotte here?
Well, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like there's only one babyface on the roster in terms of the Divas right now, and it's Becky Lynch. Like, where's all the babyfaces? They're all heels at this point. So in that sense, it's like they got to turn a lot more Divas back to being faces.
Well, it depends on if this is the Bella Twins, if this is their on or off week. I don't know. 'Cause, they switch it up.
Well,
Yeah, they have shifts.
No, only when Brie Bella's in the ring doing the yes kicks is she a babyface.
And come on!
come on, Brie! Come on, Brie! Like, shut the fuck. That's the most annoying thing. That's why I hate when Brie wrestles, because then you have to hear Nikki, like, cheering on. Anyway, yeah, I buy it, because babyface Charlotte was boring as hell, and it was stupid.
So bad.
We didn't, like, no one liked her. She was a character that no one could really relate to, but now she has something going on. Ric Flair is surprisingly getting heat, even though everyone loves him. He's being genuinely annoying. Like, he's not being Ric Flair that we love. He's just being kind of a jackass, and that's good for Charlotte.
That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, I'm also buying into this because for me, Charlotte was robotic, terrible, awful, horrible, whatever, descriptive word you want to use. Every one of them when she was that face character. This heel turn is very necessary for her, and this is a way for WWE to get away with constantly referring to her as the daughter of Ric Flair, and yet it have some effectiveness to it because it is furthering her in addition to using it to constantly mentioning him or him constantly being there. It's furthering her along. It's making her better as a result. And it's making Becky Lynch better too. And we've actually gotten to see what Becky Lynch can do in the ring the last couple of weeks. We got to hear an awesome interview from her the week before. I have gotten so much more out of Becky Lynch the last 2 weeks than I did her entire rest of her main roster run since she's been up there. 100%. So I am all into I like this feud. I like where it's been going. Yes, I buy it.
Yeah, I was a big Becky Lynch fan down in NXT, and I loved that story that they told with her going after the Women's Championship and her losing. I wanted to see a continuation of that. I didn't get to see that because she moved up to the main roster, but what I've seen from Becky Lynch over these last 2 weeks, she's a friggin' babyface and one that I actually really like, one that I want to root for, and she makes it very easy to do. She's very likable, and I love the match with her and Charlotte on Monday Night Raw, so I buy the hell out of the heel turn. I've really been enjoying what Charlotte has been doing, and like you said, Evan, if they want to call her Ric Flair's daughter every damn week, let it have some effect. Put her with him, and I think it's a great pairing, and they're firing on all cylinders right now, so I'm enjoying everything that I'm seeing from Charlotte and Becky Lynch right now. What else do we have to discuss? Now is the time where we move on to the discussion that we're going to be having about Star Wars and wrestling. So we did this last week on the show. We looked at the movie Creed, and we saw some themes that were presented in Creed, what it took to make a babyface in wrestling and the road to travel to get a successful babyface, the successful... a successful turnover to a new star and
a new top protagonist. We could call it that.
There you go. Thanks. See, that's why you're here. Yes, and we're gonna be doing this this week with Star Wars as well. We talk about this very frequently on the show. How the themes for pro wrestling, like the basic tenets of pro wrestling, they could be like the basic tenets of storytelling in so many different elements. And one thing that we love to do on PWF Empire Live is challenge the conventional wisdom, challenge the status quo. We're not people that like to swim in the shallow end of the pool. We like to get deep and break things down and be analytical and things like that. So hopefully you guys join us on this journey that we're about to take here. So Steven, go ahead, take it away.
Right, so this is going to be completely spoiler heavy, so if you don't want to hear Star Wars Episode 7 spoilers, and get out of here right now, because it's not going to go well for you. Although I'm sure everyone who has wanted to see the movie has seen it by now. There's no way that you haven't.
And this is going to be the last segment of the night, so I probably have something else. So, like, if you guys want to put this on pause and go, watch the movie really quickly, run to go see it, we'll be here when you get back.
Right. So last week I talked about how Creed was in the position of having to establish a new top protagonist after the Rocky movies. Sort of, you had to get a new one because Rocky himself got really old, and it's the same with Star Wars in a large way, because they're starting a new trilogy, and Luke Skywalker is old as hell right now, And I mean, that doesn't itself preclude him from being the main character, but if they want to go in a new direction, they want to tell a new story, so they have to establish a few new main characters. And what they try to do in the Force Awakens is just that, with Rey, who is the main protagonist, and Finn, who is sort of not really sure what his role is going to be. I mean, he was a main protagonist in this one, but I'm not sure if he's going to get a push in the next one, if you want to use wrestling lingo. Now, I said last week that Creed, I thought, did it really well, because Creed, when he was getting his push, if you want to use the wrestling lingo, he sort of went through all the necessary motions. He went through the obstacles, he went through the struggles, he had character development, you knew who he was. And I thought they really respected the audience when they were building this character up to replace Rocky. And I think that Star Wars Episode 7 did it completely wrong. And I realize that I am a minority in this. I know that most people liked the movie, and most people liked Rey and Finn a lot. But I think this is the type of booking, if you want to use the wrestling lingo, to avoid when you're building up a new top babyface. Because with Creed, you had all what I just said. In Star Wars, you have this character Rey, who is good at everything, who has almost no struggles in the movie, who every time she encounters an obstacle is able to overcome it within minutes, who is able to garner the level of power that it took Luke Skywalker 3 movies to acquire in under 2 hours. This is the character we're talking about, Rey. And I think that's insulting to the audience. And this is what you should avoid when you're building someone like Roman Reigns up. And I think, thankfully, though they wanted to go that route when they were building him up against Lesnar, they took a step back and they put some challenges in front of Lesnar. They gave him in front of Reigns, they gave him some time. And now he's starting to win the audience back. But I think if you book a character like this, if you write a character like this, like Rey was written, it's sort of the John Cena effect, where you just... It reminds you a lot of John Cena's push, because John Cena came in, he started steamrolling every top wrestler. Do you remember when he beat Jericho, then he beat Angle, then he beat Benoit, then he beat everyone in his path? And I think it was the first feud that really pissed people off, because he had not yet established himself. These days when John Cena beats someone, you kind of get it, because Cena is like a legend at this moment. But when he was first being pushed, he steamrolled Kurt Angle. It's like, so you're telling me this rookie can beat an Olympic gold medalist and multi-time world champion like Kurt Angle just like this? And I sort of got that feeling from Star Wars Episode 7 with Rey. It's like you have this girl who we don't know much about her, so they could still explain this in a way that satisfies me. But from what I can tell, like, she's this girl who has not really been trained. She gets access to the Force and seems to know everything about the Force just intuitively and readily and on command. And she seems to know how to use a lightsaber against a trained opponent who is Kylo Ren. And she takes him to the limit, even though I know he's hurt going to the fight. But still, you have to wonder, like, where the hell did she learn all this shit? Why is she so good at everything? How is she also able to fix the Millennium Falcon and surprise Han Solo, who has worked on that thing his entire life? This girl who's barely been trained in piloting, she could fly the Millennium Falcon, no problem. Han Solo loves her. Like, it's just one of those characters, like a John Cena. And what I want to see from Reigns, to tie it back in, because this isn't just me talking about Star Wars, I want to see Reigns be more like Creed and less like Rey. You know, I want to see him struggle, and I want to see him not just be good at everything automatically, not just steamroll everything. And I want them to tell us who the hell he is, because that's another criticism I had of Star Wars. I don't know who the fuck Rey is. I don't know what she's about. I know that she has some sort of abandonment issue, but that was not explained. You don't really know what her motivation is. She just seems to be this protagonist. Like, she exists to be the protagonist. And I think Reigns, in a lot of ways, is falling into that trap. We don't really know what his motivation is. This past Monday, he gave us a promo which was very strange, where he said, I don't want to lose this title because then I don't make money for my family. Now that's just weird because it's like you don't lose your job if you lose the title, Roman. It works when Kevin Owens does it because Owens is like, he wants more money. Like, he's not saying that he's gonna go broke. He's just saying I want more money for my family. But when Reigns says it, it's like, okay, so is his motivation his family now? Is it his legacy? Is it what the hell is this guy's motivation? What does he stand for? What are his principles?
See, he was just overreacting. He was just overreacting. You've never had that time in school where you get a bad grade on a test and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail the class and then I'm gonna get kicked out of school and my parents are gonna disown me and I'm gonna live under a bridge. Like Roman Reigns was just being very vulnerable.
But that's not what I want to see. I know you're kidding, but that's not what you want to see from Reigns. You don't want to see an insecure guy like that in Reigns. You want to see like a cool, level-headed guy who does what he has to do. Like, that's something I would expect Eugene to say if he was the champion. Like, oh no, I'm gonna lose my title, lose all the money. like that's not something you expect.
Is it bad that I just imagined him actually saying?
Like, what road have we taken to get Eugene to the championship, man?
Oh God.
Hey, Eugene was very over at one point. He could have been the champion at one point.
Probably, it couldn't have been any worse than some of the champions we've had this year, but I digress.
Hey, if Kali was world champion at some point, then why not? I mean, holy crap.
So that's basically my point. I think that what we have here, what I'm looking at here, is 3 ways to build a top babyface. And you have the example of Adonis Creed, you have the example of Roman Reigns, and you have the example of Rey from Star Wars. And while I know that everyone loves Rey, so I'm the minority here, and I know there are some people who agree with me too, but for the most part it was a successful movie, so I'm not saying they didn't succeed, because they did, very, very much so. But in terms of the storytelling, I feel like Reigns needs to go more in the direction of Creed and not in the direction of Rey, who is just automatically good at everything and who has no discernible character.
Yeah, yes, I completely understand where you're coming from here. It's basically that you can't let your ambitions get the best of you when you're telling a story and you try to like force your way to the conclusion or push past all of the development, because when you do things like that, there is something that's lost in the journey sometimes. And this ties into what we were talking about last week. Sometimes it's okay to tell a story about failure, or not even necessarily failure, but just telling a story and learning and growth. And to tie this into something that I saw in Lucha Underground, which I found very interesting, because at the time I was so struck by WWE, and that's why I'm so glad that I've had an awakening of my own in 2015, and I see wrestling differently. I used to judge everything by the WWE standard, but I see things differently now. There was a match between Pentagon Jr., I believe, and one of the Lucha Underground stars. Her name is Sexy Star. It was a submission match, and she enters into this match, and you could say she was a hot-ass mess in the match because she didn't know any submissions. The submissions were misapplied and things like that. And they were actually talking about it on commentary. She doesn't know any submissions. And I was sitting there like, well, why the hell didn't they just teach her a submission before? Why didn't they just tell her to use a submission? And I had to realize, like, that wasn't the story. This is the story. You actually have a character here who has to go through some growing pains and learn how to do things. And even when, she does attempt to do something, she may fail at it or may not be good at it. And there is a story there. So, that plays all into not letting your ambitions get the best of you and letting someone go on a journey of development. Like that matters. There's some value in that.
Yeah, and we saw that development in the original Star Wars trilogy with Luke Skywalker. He wasn't great at first. He didn't he had to go on the journey. And
he was shit too. He wasn't just not great, he was shit.
Yeah, and that was The Empire Strikes Back in a nut. Like, that's why, to me, of all 7 films, The Empire Strikes Back is still the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. And the reason being is because you see the development of Luke, you see the trials, and you see when he even can envision himself within Darth Vader. And that's before he knows that Darth Vader is his father. That's before any of any of that is even known, and he just sees himself. He sees a side of himself that he doesn't like when he's on Dagobah with Yoda when he's training, and like he also goes against the advising of Yoda. Yoda wants him to not go to save his friends. He doesn't want him to make that rash decision and go fight Darth Vader. He's not ready yet, and he does it anyway. He makes an immature mistake. He makes a mistake that someone of his stature shouldn't have made, like where he was at in time. He shouldn't be doing this. And then he gets his hand cut off. He loses to Vader. And then, yeah, of course, he finds out that Vader's his father. But, like, he loses that battle. And that's kind of like a Rocky story almost in a way, because, like, Vader and Luke fight in Episode 5, and Luke loses. And then in Episode 6, Luke wins. But I think what's amazing about it is that Luke wins because of that very side of himself that he hated so much, his aggression, and that's why, like, he almost shows that he has dark side in him. He does, but then he realizes that he doesn't want to turn, and like, I'm probably preaching to the choir because a lot of people here love Star Wars, but it's like the reason I love those movies so much is because that's so telling. You get to know that character of Luke so much. You see the different sides of him. You see the decisions he has to make. You see the mixed emotions that he would feel, and you feel the same way. Like you feel angry when Vader is pissing him off, but then like when Vader's like taking his dying breaths, you're like, no, don't die. Like, and that's how Luke's going through that. Like, no, Dad, I don't want you to die. Like, it's crazy. It's just amazing. That story, I don't feel like we got the intro chapter to that in Episode 7, and that's, I think, what was lacking from the movie for me, although I'm on the other end of the spectrum, whereas I did really enjoy The Force Awakens quite a bit, and I did like Rey's character, but I do feel like we didn't get the benefit of seeing her grow. We saw her already at a place beyond where she would realistically be. I liked the connection of, like, the old lightsaber and her connection to it and stuff. And I will argue on the other side and say, Kylo Ren was injured at the time he was fighting her in that lightsaber duel. So he was not 100% because he had been shot in the shoulder by Chewie. So, to be fair, he was actually...
But that's only one instance of a whole case of things that I'm listing. Like, I can go on and on. She's a fighter. She takes on these two guys at the beginning because she could fight. She's an engineer, like she could build shit. She could fly a fucking Millennium Falcon with she's never been outside space, but she gets the Falcon off. She could fix the Millennium Falcon even though Han Solo can't. She overpowers Kylo Ren.
Yeah, of course he finds
with the Force in a matter of seconds. So it's all these things, and I feel like a very John Cena vibe from her, and I really don't want that from Reigns. I don't want to see a guy who's just good at everything with no discernible character. I want to know who this guy is, and I want them to show us, like, what is his motivation. Don't keep jerking me around. Like, I don't know what his motivation is. Just it could be simple. It could be his family, but, like, if it's his family, then fucking tell us it's his family. Don't, like, one week tell us it's his family, then the next week he's, like, trying to make a name for himself. Like, what's the story here with this guy?
Based off of what you just said there and what Evan was talking about with the story that was told was Luke, is this something that is too far outside of the reach of professional wrestling? Like, I know it's happened before. Like, we are in a place where we can know characters and things like that and see the development and things, but it's different when you have something planned out and structured, and you could like change every single instance of it, tweak it or whatever. But with the fact that wrestling is living a breathing type thing that goes on a weekly basis, and sometimes plans change. Like, for example, WWE could have a plan on what they want to do for WrestleMania, or they could have a plan on what they want to do for SummerSlam, but who's to say that it won't change this week or next week or something like that? So is the journey that these characters have going on and things, is that something that is easily replicated in wrestling?
It's different because, like you said, you do get to write the whole script down in a movie. But there is such a thing as giving, like, just having a general idea of who your characters are, which I feel like WWE these days has no idea who most of their characters are. I could list on one hand the characters in WWE right now that have a clear, distinguished personality and goal. And that's maybe one guy who's Kevin Owens. Maybe. Maybe Dolph Ziggler to steal the show or whatever the fuck. So it's like with Reigns, it doesn't have to be complicated. They just keep confusing me. I'm sure they're confusing other people too, because when he's up against Wyatt, it's about his family. Then he's up against Rollins about the title. Then it's got his family again. They're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
I do. Brock, it's about his family. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that his motivation should be consistent. That's definitely been one of the issues with Roman Reigns has been what the motivation. I think that's the issue with like almost every character. And the reason why I went on the spiel about Luke is because we were connected to him throughout that entire trilogy. It doesn't matter which movie you want to pick out. You can pick out any of the three by themselves, and you can feel what he's feeling. You can see where he's coming from point one to the end. And I think that's very important for your next big face, your next big star of WWE or wrestling in general, any company. Their biggest draw, biggest babyface, their hero, their poster boy. You want to be able to feel what he's feeling. You don't want to hate him. You don't want to feel the way you feel about John Cena. You don't want to literally say to yourself, man, this guy is a moron. Now, some people always like the bad guys. And, I mean, I myself like the bad guys, too. Like, I like Darth Vader just as much as I like Luke Skywalker, but for a different reason. And I like Boba Fett, and I like all those, bad characters, just like I like Kevin Owens. He's a bad man, but he's still fighting for something, and you can still see where he's coming from. You can see why he's an asshole, just like with Darth Vader. You can see why he turned to the dark side. You can see why he had so many mixed emotions from the prequels into the original trilogy. You can see why heels, bad characters, feel the way they feel. Yeah, because everybody has the good and bad in them in real life. Whether we like to admit it or not, we all have a good and bad side in us. And, again, you are a good or bad person based on what you choose to do, what you choose to show. But sometimes your emotions will overcome you. And that's where wrestling can be so real. Like, even if it is scripted, even if it is predetermined, and we all know that, we can still connect with those characters because those are emotions that we really feel. But they got to emotionally invest us. And that's what the big thing that I'm trying to connect all of this to, is that emotional investment is what will get you into it. And that's why those original 3 Star Wars are every fan like favorite movie. Like, when you see almost everybody after they see it, they're like, man, that's one of my favorite movies of all time, because you are invested in it. And that's why Creed gets such a high review too, because you are invested in it. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed Star Wars 7 more so because of the fact that it was a nostalgia rush, not because they were connected to the new characters, but because they were connected to the film, because it reminded them of what they once loved. And that's why when you see certain things in wrestling right now that remind you of a different time, you love them. You go crazy about them.
ECW One Night Stand for Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
that
kind of what
damn
it felt like.
that Hell in a Cell match with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins when they were on the side of the cage and they fell onto the table.
Exactly.
Everybody, which I found so funny because everybody loved it at the moment. But you want to know how many people talk about it now? One.
0.
Me.
Yeah.
Just when I mentioned it there.
Oh, just you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Jay is the first person. But yeah. See, there you go. Like, people loved it at the time, but yet it's not even that memorable. Whereas Mankind and Undertaker, which is what it reminded people of, you still think about it, you still talk about it, you still hear about it. So it's the same thing. Like, I think Star Wars 7 got the highest ratings that it got because it was a nostalgia trip. And I'm not saying that that's a big flaw to the movie. I'm just saying that's what the movie was. That doesn't mean I didn't like it, because I already admitted I did like it. And I do like getting the nostalgia rush even in wrestling too. I think that's a good thing about wrestling. But to emotionally invest us properly in pro wrestling with new characters, we do have to follow them on a journey. We can't just be given something we've been given in the past that triggers a good memory and we say, oh, I love that. I want to get new things, and that is what will get characters like Rey to be great. And there's still 2 movies to save this, and they can still make Rey awesome.
I'm optimistic about the trilogy because I know what they were doing. I know it was a nostalgia kick, and I feel like they do have something planned with her. There's more going on with her, so I get it. I'm not saying she's beyond redemption, but I did feel like she was kind of motivationless, and she was kind of good at everything. And I just thought that's not how you make. That's not how you want to introduce your new protagonist. And when it comes to Roman Reigns, you don't want to go down that road. which to some sense they have, and to some sense they haven't. They've given him obstacles. He's lost quite a few times to the point where we've said he can't even lose anymore because it's getting annoying. So they have that covered, but they do still need to give him a clear motivation. They got to get his character down. He can't be one day a smug asshole and then another day a crazy lunatic spearing the McMahon family. It has to be consistent. It has to be defined. It has to be clear. It doesn't even have to be complicated. It just needs to be spelled out. Kevin Owens is not a complicated character. He spells it out. You know why the hell he's doing things. He says, I want the title because it means more money for my family. It's clear. It's obvious. There's no ambiguity about it. But
and a lot of times that's what makes the most effective characters are the simple ones, the ones that their motivation. Like you can describe them in 5 sentences, and like with 5 descriptive sentences, you can describe that character, and that's why I like them. Whereas there's other characters where you scratch your head and you can't even come up with a word to describe them because there's so many different things that they define. Like every week there's something different. You're like, I don't really know what defines that person.
To be honest, I have no idea who the fuck Roman Reigns is. This is just not me being obtuse. Like I could barely describe him. I could describe Austin. I could describe The Rock. I could describe Jericho. I could describe all these guys. I could describe Cena to some extent, but I think that's mostly because somewhere along the line he became a parody of himself. But with Reigns, he's not even a parody of himself. He's just this identity crisis dude, and he's lucky that right now he's gaining his momentum back, and they're doing an okay job, so I don't want to take that away from them, but they really got to get a grip on this guy if they want him to carry their company for the next 5 to 10 years.
Alrighty, guys. Once again, that was PWF Empire Live. We need to find like a name for what it is that we're doing here, like our connection. Connecting wrestling to pop culture and all of these different things. Gotta work on that. While I work on that, I'm gonna bid you guys adieu on behalf of my colleagues here, Evan and Steven. I know I said the voting for the W's was gonna begin at the start of this show, but I had some issues. But I guess for everyone who's not watching the show live, the voting, it will begin now. So, yeah, most people don't even watch the show live. They watch it on delay. So, the voting is live now. So, go ahead, check out PWFempire.com. The winners will be revealed very shortly here on the website. And hopefully you guys are looking out for that. We will be back right here. Same place, same time, next week, PWFempire.com, Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, signing off. Peace out.